Hello guys, welcome back. So today we're gonna be building a fun project called Compound Interest Calculator. So if this sounds like fun, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and leave a comment down below. So without wasting any of your time, let's get started. So before we head to coding, so I wanna demonstrate to you the project we'll be building in this video. The compound interest calculator, you put in the values, the years, the interest rate, 20% annually, and it shows you how your money will grow over time, and then it will tell you how much these would grow over a 10-year period, right? And then you can even change it to 15. It will re-render, it will redo the calculation and re-render again, and then you can see over 15 years is not the same as 10 years. So let's head to coding now. We have an empty project here, so let's create the first quickly. Styles and the CSS have JS, and then we have app, and then we need index.html file, and let's have compound interest calculator as the title of our HTML, and then we can also link it's a style sheet, right? Use the href tag and go into this file. Cool. So we're gonna have two sections. We are going to have two sections. No, actually we're gonna have a section, and then we're gonna divide it into two. So let's say section and call it our main or container. Let me just call it the container. Container. So we have calculator here, and then you also need a div called results, and then in here we need a canvas, because in order to use a library that we're going to use to draw our graphs, we need to use the canvas, and then canvas is one of those HTML tags. So we can say canvas, and then we give it an ID so we can be able to access it in our JavaScript called data set. Let's head back to our calculator div and have a heading. So in here we're going to have this to h3 compound interest calculator, and let's have some small tag here, say your money grows over time using compound interest. Cool. Here after the heading we need a form. We can call this what? Compound form. Nope, we don't need this. And let's have an input group where we're gonna be able to group our label and input together, right? So our HTML file doesn't look messy. Let's go ahead and create a div called input group, and then here we have a label, for initial amount. We call it initial amount. And our input is going to be of type number. We are dealing with numbers, and then the ID is initial amount. We need to create 3 of these. Here we need investment, yes, investment, yes. So your investment in years, like how long you are investing this amount, investment, yes. Here we can call it invest. No, let's just call it yes. Let's just call it yes. And then here we need the interest rate, right? Like how your amount is gonna grow over time. Let's just call it rate. It's gonna be in percentage, so estimated rates in percentage. Let's call these rates. And we also need a select input, so for our drop down, select, we call these we call them, you can call it compound. Yeah, let's just call it compound. And then here we're just gonna call it, we're gonna write compound, interval. Here we have 4 options. So the first one is annually. So the shortcut to creating this, you actually press Shift Alt and then the arrow down. It's gonna copy whatever line you are on. So here we had annually. We can have quarterly, semi annually, and we can also have monthly. Yes, so the value for annually, it means when it grows annually, it means it only grows once per year. Quarterly, it will mean it grows over, it's 4 times a year. Semi annually, it means every 6 months, so we have only 12 months in a year, so it's gonna grow twice. And then monthly, the value is gonna be 12 because it grows every month. And lastly, we need a button. We need a button called calculate. Let's say to calculate. Let's save and go to our browser and see what's going on. So we have these. Obviously it looks bad because we haven't done any sort of styling. So let's go back and try to style this. I'm gonna import another Google font into our project. I want to import a Google font. Let's go to our main and paste. Also, let's reset a few styles. Padding, let's reset padding. So using this selector, we'll select everything on our HTML and give it a padding of 0, a margin of 0, and then it will also give, let's give this font family. So this font family will apply to everything. And also box sizing, border box. And then we have a container, right? We have a container. Let's do display flex so we can have the calculator and the result side by side. Say flex, flex direction, we make it row, and then we just divide the content to be on center. And then also let's add a bit of margin because we already resetted it here. So let's add the margin of 40 pixels. Okay, let's save and come here. Cool. Let's go back here. Let's continue with the styling. So we have a calculator. Since we have the calculator and the result sitting side by side, we can actually decide how much width we want to give this calculator. So for us, let's make it 40%. 40%. And then also all the HTML, I mean all the text here, we want to give it some sort of a color. Also even the labels, right? Yeah, so let's do color. And then the color for this project, we are actually dealing with a bit of gray here, so we want to make it a bit of dark gray. We also have a heading. We have a heading which is h3. Let's give it a font size of 25. I don't know. With the light green, not the same green as this one. So let's say hash 0c8 d0. Save and head back to our, okay. You can see it's coming along, right? um let's start with the input group. Input group, let's give a margin so we can have a bit of a margin between this group and the other group and then everything else, right? Let's give it a margin of 20 pixels. Bottom and top, right and left, we give it 0 because we already moved the whole thing from here, so we're just gonna apply between them, up and top and bottom. Yes, top and bottom. And then we're also gonna have input group. Let's do something with the labels. Say display block. So we'll say display block because you can see the label and then the input are on the same line. So we want to make it a block, we want to make it a block tag or block element so it can have its own space above here, so the input will be pushed down. Let's save here, and then so you can see, yes, it seems like we have a lot of margin between these. Okay, but then let's continue. Let's deal with some other stuff. Let's say input group. Let's deal with the input now. Oh, we also have a select, right? So we need to select all of them. Not button. Also, we also need a button here. because we have some style that actually we're gonna apply the same style to the input, the button, and the select. They're gonna have the same width size. They're gonna take 70%. Padding, let's make it 12 pixels. Border 1 pixel solid, and let's use this color. What else? Outline, none. Let's go back. We are on the right track. Let's add some radius, border radius of 5 pixels. Woo, looks okay. So let's deal with the button only. Background color, this, and the color or white. The text in the button is gonna be white. Let's go back here. Yeah, it looks pretty cool, right? Looks pretty cool. All right. So let's style the results, right? Let's style the results. We have a result here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a bit of we're gonna apply some sort of shadow results. We're gonna apply some shade to that div. So we're gonna use the border shadow and 0 pixels, 20 and 3. Let's apply a bit of black. Let's apply black and see how it looks. It looks too much, right? We can go back here and also increase the width of these results. So we had 40, I think, for the calculator. So here we can decide for whatever value we want, but then let's have something bigger than the calculator, and let's decrease this to something light, because you saw the board, I mean you saw the, yeah, but it's still too dark. Let's go to 2. Yeah, I think now it looks pretty okay. So yeah, I think we have pretty much everything we need in our HTML. Okay. What else? What else do we need? Maybe let's add some margin. Let's add some margin, but I think it's not gonna be on the same level. Okay, now it's okay. Yeah, that's basically it. And then you can also decide to increase the height of these. But then now let's stick with this size for now, and then we'll see how it goes. So we'll be heading to our our JavaScript, right? But then before we head to our JavaScript, let's go to Chart.JS website and see how it actually works, right? So we're gonna use this Chart.js library to import, or actually to draw our graphs. So in order for us to use it, we need to import it into our project, right? So let's get started here. So for us, in order to import it, since we are using a vanilla JS, we're just gonna use a CDN to import our not our to actually to import this library into our project. If you're using something like React, Angular, or Vue, you can even use like npm to install the package, right? To install this library. So let's go copy the CDN link here. The files are still loading. We copy this into our project. So for us to use this, we need to import it in our HTML as a JavaScript, or as a script. Actually, let me not say JavaScript, as a script. So source is this, right? And then here we going to import or link our JavaScript. Wait, why is it not losing this tag? So where's our JavaScript? Here. And let's go into our app. So we need to grab the values from our form in order for us to actually do some computation, right? So let's start by grabbing these values here. We have initial amount, years, rate, and compound. Let's say initial amount. We're going to use the document get element by ID. We have initial amount. We also have yes, get element by ID. Yes. Let's also just copy down these rates, and compound. We also have a button, right? So we're gonna do the calculations once the button is clicked, right? So let's grab the button. Let's comment values from the form, and then here we say the calculate button. Get element. Let's use a query selector here because we didn't give that button and ID, so we're just gonna use the query selector. Input group button. So this is how you select the button in your CSS, right? So the query selector works similarly. And let's attach an event listener, right, to our button. So button dot add event listener, and then we're gonna listen on a click event, and then we're gonna call a function, or we're gonna reference a function called calculate what calculate growth. So we're gonna calculate the growth of your money. So let's create a function called function calculate growth, and then we're gonna pass in the event object here, so we can prevent the default behavior of the button click. So normally a button click in a form will do a submission, right? Will do a form submission. So we're actually going to prevent that. All right. So for those who actually don't know how to calculate the compound, we actually need to use this formula. So this is the formula that we're going to use. This is the initial amount, and then this is the interest rate, and then this is actually like how the compound, right? And then this is like the period, and normally it's in years. So this is like time, rate, the principal. So the P actually stands for the principal amount, which is the initial amount. So let's head back to our VS Code. So remember, these are actually not the values, right? So we need to convert these. So this is actually the HTML element. So let's grab the values from this. let's try to use try catch, because you might need to try to convert a value and then it fails. So if it fails, we're not gonna catch it here. So let's have initial and pass int initial amount dot value. So now we actually have the value that is in here. Also need, we call it period. Period is gonna be yes dot value. Rate, I'm gonna call it interest rates dot value, and compound. No, we can, oh, let me just call it comp. So we have all the values we're gonna need in our formula, right? But in order to calculate the value, or the final amount, how it grows over the years, we need to store the amount we have at the end of year one. We need the amount we have at the end of year two. So let's have an array where we actually going to store those values, right? So let's have constant data, and is an array. So we're gonna calculate the compound at the end of year one, year two, up until the end, or the years that we were given, right? Yes. And then we also need the labels. So in our graph, we're gonna have the labels that show this is year one, this is year two, this is year three, up until the nth year, right? So let's have labels. Yes. So now let's start with the calculations. We're gonna use a for loop because we don't know how long this period is gonna be, right? So we're gonna calculate from whatever, from year zero up until this period. So at the end of year zero, we have this much up until this period, right? So you can start from one and say I until it's actually equal to period, or you can actually start from zero and say less than period, right? It's basically the same. And we say const. So now we actually applying that formula. Let's go back to our formula. So we have p y, and then we have a bracket. So we have 1 plus r over n, and then to the power of n multiplied by t. We have our initial multiply by 1 plus the rate, right? So the rate, we actually if we go back here, did you say we said estimated rates, right, in percentage? So if you give us 25, we're gonna convert it to a 0.25, right? So let's say rate, not the interest, divided by 100 over compound. Let's have this as a one expression, and we actually have to the power of something. So let's use the math function. There's a math function we have called power, for the power of comp multiply by I, because now I is 1. We So at the beginning we're gonna have I as 1, so we're gonna calculate how much we're gonna have at the end of year 1, and then we move to I is close to 2, and then we calculate how much we're gonna have at the end of year 2, right? So wait, there's an error here. Oh, we need to close this, and then this final amount we actually need to store it in here. So we're gonna say data dot push, and we push the final amount, and the labels, we're gonna say labels dot push. So this is year, what, this year plus I, so this is year 1 2 3 until end. So yeah, this is basically it. And then here we have console dot error, and let's console the error. But we are not done. Now we have the values, right? We have the values, but now we need what? We need to see these values over time, right? Let me try to console them here using console table and display data. Let's head back to our Chrome and then to test if you can get some values when we give it here. And then let's open the inspect, Control Shift I, or you can just right click and control open the inspect. Also notice we actually didn't make our project to be mobile responsive, right? Because we are not really focusing on the mobile. We just want to get this project to work. So let me do this. Let's go to console. Let's say 100 for 10 years at the interest of what, 25. Let's say calculate. There. Why are we getting not a number? Let's move back here and check what the problem is. What's going on? What is going on? So we have this. Damn it. Yeah, I think this is okay. Let's go back here and do 110,000 10 years at an interest rate of 25%. Yeah, now it looks okay, right? Oh, look at these trailing numbers, right? Let's convert them, like let's only leave 2 decimal values here. Let's write a function to decimal. Let me just call it decimal. We take the value and the decimals, so it's gonna take the value and then like how many numbers you need here, the trailing ones, so we only need 2. So we're gonna use a string function called to fixed. So value to fixed, and then we pass in the decimal. So if you pass in 3, it's gonna return 3 values here. If you pass in 2, it's gonna return 2. So we need only 2, right? Decimals. However, this will return string. We actually don't need string. There's this shorthand to converting a value from string to a number. You just add a plus sign in front of this, or you can actually use parse int into from the string to a value. So let me just use this shorthand for now. Cool. So now let's start with actually the drawing. Let's see how we actually need to draw. Let's go back here and look at this. So in order for you to draw the graph, you need to grab your canvas, right? And then they get the context into D, right? And we have a constructor here called chart, which takes the context and then it takes another object, right? So in this object, you're gonna specify the type of graph you want, and then it has also a data property where you are going to pass the labels, the data set, the background. So the background, the color of your graphs and everything, the border width, and then also has some options here where you can scale. So some of these things we actually do not need for our graph. We need labels, right? We need labels, we need a data set, right? So let's go back to our JavaScript. Let's have a function here. I want to have a function here called draw graph. What am I doing? But let's grab the context. Let's grab uh context document.get element by ID. What did we call our okay, our canvas is called the data set. And then we need the get context. We need the context because this is a canvas, right? 2D. So in here we're gonna have something like, let's just have a new constructor. I want to show you something, right? We're gonna have context, and then it takes in an object where you specify the type. The type, we're going to use a line graph, and then it has also a data property where you actually going to, you need labels, right? So you can say orange, uh, bananas and whatever, but then for us we have labels in years. So we actually just gonna use this labels array here. So JavaScript has this shorthand. Instead of saying labels is gonna be labels, you can just write labels alone like this. And so also we need data. It also has a data property. Instead of writing data like that again, you can just use the shorthand again and have the data. And it also needs something like called fill. So it's gonna fill our line graph. I'm gonna show you this once we start drawing. Say fill equals to true, and then we also have a background. So this is the background of what it was filled, right? So let me take this value from here. I paste it. I'm gonna copy it from here, and the border width of 103. I think this is everything we need. So let's go back to our calculator. 10,000 or 1,000, 10 years, and then interest of 21%. Oh, it didn't draw because we didn't call this function draw. We actually need to call it here. Instead of consoling, we need to draw graph. Let's see how it works. 10 years, 25, 23, calculate. RGGBA is not defined. Oh, what did I do? Um, oh, let me say background color, and this actually should be a string. Um, 10 years of who it did not draw. Chart with IDs must be destroyed before the canvas can be reused. What do we have here? Why it didn't draw? Why it didn't draw? um let's see. Oh, I missed something. Actually, these values here, um ooh, there. So under data, after labels we have something called data set, and then this takes an array of objects with the properties. So you can throw multiple graphs on that canvas, right? So this data set takes an object that specify the information about a certain graph. You can add another object here to specify another graph, so you can draw multiple graphs on that canvas. So here we are only going to draw one, so we can only specify one object, right? And the label of this graph. So normally when you have multiple graphs on the same when you have multiple types of graphs, you need to specify this is yes, or this is fruits. So for us, the label is gonna be what? Compound growth. Let's call it compound growth, or just compound, right? Let's just call it compound. And then the data is still okay, everything is okay. We actually just needed to use this data set and move uh the object into our data set. So let's have two, oh, not 100 years. Let's draw. Yes, look, we have our graph for 10 years. It started off as almost 10,000, because at the end of 1 year you had already 11,200. So let's maximize this. Let's have a bit of a padding in here. Let's have a bit of a padding in here. 20. All right. Also let's do display flex and align items center, so we can put the graph center stage. Boom. This looks pretty. This look pretty. This looks pretty, right? But we still miss something. Let's say I change these values to 50. It doesn't redraw, right? It doesn't redraw. So let's check the errors. There's an error I realized when you actually try to render the graph. It says canvas is already in use. Chart with ID 0 must be destroyed before the canvas can be reused. So let's go back to our chart. I mean our JavaScript, right? So instead of having this, we actually need to specify a graph here, our graph. So let's just call it line, because we're using the line graph. And then we just need to draw nothing on our context, right? I mean on our chart. We are in the object here. The way we actually have to pass all the values, we're actually passing an empty object, so we can draw nothing. For us, by doing this, it allows us to use this line again, but before we use this line, we actually need to destroy it, because by using it like this, there's no way we can destroy this chart or this canvas before we can reuse it again. So we're gonna have constant, not const, because we already specified. We're gonna say line, and then we assign it a new constructor with new values. and they say we need to destroy. Gonna say line dot destroy. Is it like this? So this way we'll be able to re-render. So let's say we had 10,000, 10 years at an interest rate of 25 annually. So we have something like this. So now let's say we change it to monthly. When we calculate, it should be able, wait, why is not doing that? We should be able to, canvas is already used, or constant assignment to, okay, so it means here, let's say let, I hope now it works. I hope it works. I really do. 10 years, 10%, uh, same annually. Oh, look at this. So it's throwing again, it's rendering, but it comes with a new data. So it means we need to destroy the old data from the previous inputs, and then yeah, so let's destroy the old input. So whenever this function called calculate growth is called, we need to destroy the values in these two arrays. So data length, we can say 0 is gonna delete everything from that array, and then labels length, okay, 10,000 over 10 years at an interest of 25%. Here we have it. When you say semi-annually, it changes values, right? So semi-annually means it grows twice per year. Monthly it should be very high, and then we also have quarterly. Cool. I think everything seems to be working just okay. Yeah, we might have reached the end of the video. Let's see here. We can have something fun like id, right? In here we grab it, document dot get element. So here you can say um message dot inner text, say, let's use this template literal. So say you will have uh this amount, let's say it's gonna be the last amount in the array, right? The last amount in the array. Oh wait, let's just simplify things. So let's say growth. So let me say growth, not even constant, because we want to assign it the value growth. So the last value in this for loop will actually be the last value after that period. So if the period was 10 years, you're gonna have the value in the last the value in the last array. So the value that was pushed last into the array. So we're gonna say growth is final. So it's gonna be assigned for every iteration, but then the last value will be the one that was pushed here. This value here will be the last one that was pushed into here. So we can say you'll have growth, you'll have this amount, you'll have this amount after, and then we specify the years, right? Period. After period, yes. I don't know how it's gonna look, but then let's try. But I also wanna give it a color, something dark, yeah, something like this. Oh, I can just say, I don't know. It's gonna look big. It's gonna look big, guy. It's gonna look like our title, so let's remove it here. Let's push it here and say color, this color, but font, let's make it 25. Oh, I mean 20, yes. So 10,000, 10 years, 21 interest. Ooh, look at this. Let's go back to our CSS. Our results say flex direction and make it column. Will this solve our problem? It actually did, right? But then this color, no, nope. Let's use that dark one. Yeah. Oh, look, we forgot to use that function to decimal, right? Let's head back to our JavaScript, and what did we call it? To decimal. It takes in the value and the decimal. We also need to use it here to decimal final and 2. Let's do the last testing, right? Cool, now it's okay. So I think we've reached the end of the video. So thank you guys for watching. Please don't forget, please do not forget to subscribe, leave a comment down below, and also hit that like button. I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you.